Hello. We're starting a new unit, and it's one of my favorites in all of statistics. It's correlation and regression. And every time I teach a statistics class, this one's usually the favorite, sort of the crowning moment of the whole statistics class, because you can really see how things interact and you can really see some real world applications with this stuff. So come on, I'll show you how it works. If you've studied hypothesis testing, which I know you have, you know how to compare one variable between two populations. Correlation is the relationship between two variables within a population. It's a group of techniques used to measure the relationship between two variables. Step one is to create a scatter plot to provide a visual representation of the relationship between the variables. And step two is to calculate the correlation coefficient, which we call R, to quantify the strength of the relationship between the two variables. So I'll show you how to do those steps later, but first we need to talk about independent and dependent variables. The independent variable provides the basis for estimation. It's the predictor variable, and it usually goes on the x-axis. The dependent variable is the variable that is being predicted. It usually goes on the y-axis. For example, is temperature related to ice cream sales? Well, we can pull up this graph here, and on the graph you'll notice that temperature, it's on the x-axis. That's the independent variable. And we're wondering if that affects sales, the dependent variable. So this graph, it's a scatter plot that gives us that visual representation of the data. So that's what scatter plots do. They show relationships, and they can show that two variables have a positive relationship, or a negative relationship, or a weak relationship, or a strong relationship. For example, let's look at these. The scatter plot on the far left, we'd call that a weak positive. The dots are kind of going in a positive direction. They're also kind of all over the place. The next one, you can see the dots sort of starting to gather together. We call that a moderate positive. The next one we'd call a strong positive. And the last one we'd call a perfect positive. In the negative realm, this one on the far left, we could call it a weak negative, or we could just say there's no correlation. Those dots are all over the place. Then we'd have a moderate negative, a strong negative, and a perfect negative. So that's step one, just to create a scatter plot to get a visual. Now step two, that's to calculate the correlation coefficient, R. I'm not going to tell you how to do that one this time. You have an investigation to do. I'm going to see if you can figure it out on your own. Thanks for being here for the introduction.